Welcome back to the Moz House podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Dennis. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by May 2025 resident artist at Moz House, Joshua Allen, an artist, community organizer, writer, and public speaker based in Brooklyn, New York. Since entering the arts and activism scene in 2014, Joshua has emerged as a passionate advocate of LGBTQIA+ and people of color communities. Through creative action and stunning artwork and performances, Joshua envisions a world where all people are empowered to be their truest selves, a vision deeply aligned with our mission here at House as well. A multidisciplinary artist, Joshua's work invites us to radically imagine a more just, equitable, and joyous world. That vision was on full display during their 2-week residency with us this year in May, culminating in the Upon This Ground public artist talk with Jasmine Weber at the Bridgehampton Museum. Also during Joshua's residency, they presented a performance at the Watermill Center titled Waves, a Meditation. Both the artist talk and performance explored themes of ancestral memory, queerness, diaspora, and healing. So welcome, Joshua, to the Moz House podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
I'd love to talk a little bit about your 2-week stay here at Moz House this past early summer, residing here and resting on Shinnecock land. I wonder if you could talk from your perspective as both an artist and maybe an activist. How did this space, both physical and cultural, influence your creative process?
It was really great. My fortnight here was really special. I learned a lot, met a lot of really cool people. I think in my practice as an artist, I struggle with finding time to rest and finding a sense of balance. I pride myself on being an overachiever, but what I learned here and the experiences that I had here helped me to slow down. During my first week, I did a beading workshop. It was a meditative practice, really. And it really, I feel like, set the tone for the work that I wanted to do while here. It helped ground myself for the meditation that I did culminating the residency. And just being here on Shinnecock land, it feels very peaceful. It's quiet, small, kind of everyone knows each other. It was a really special experience.
You had an opportunity to go to other events. You explored the Hamptons. You got a glimpse into that world. So I wonder if you can also talk a little bit about your experience off of Shinnecock and how it maybe contrasted or was related. Or I think sometimes when people ask what is life like here at Shinnecock, they think it's a whole different world. I wonder if you could maybe talk from the inside.
In many ways, it's different, but in many ways, it's the same. I also want to note for listeners that this is my second residency here in the area. Back in 2022, I was in residence at the Watermill Center. I stayed out in Sag Harbor, but would be working from the Watermill Center during the day. It was a shorter residency. I was there for a week, not 2 weeks. I was already grounded in some experiences here, having already came to visit, knowing maybe a little bit about the art scene. For people who have never been before or who are trying to visualize it, I would describe it as a very small but artsy community, where the community here is maybe a little bit more knowledge about the arts and the art scene than the average person. Here in the Hamptons is what I've experienced. Yeah, I had a chance to go to a lot of really cool events, to see some really cool exhibitions, to meet some really awesome people. Yeah, and I'm carrying a lot of those memories with me still in my practice today.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So we have opportunities if you're social, if you just want to stay inside and focus. So that's really great to hear it from your perspective. I wonder if, since it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since you've been here, maybe even longer, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your practice in general and how it might have shifted from your departure from Moz House. What are you focusing on now? What are you working on now?
I'm excited to share this, actually. I developed the performance Waves, a Meditation. It was my first time doing a performance piece like that. I thought it went over really well at the Watermill Center. And since then, I've received really positive feedback and I've been invited to do it multiple times. I'll say it. I've had 6 exhibition invitations since then, and it's been about a month or so. What's changed about my practice since last time you saw me is I'm trying to slow down more. That performance is difficult to do. My body is the site of the performance, and I'm only human. I was writing about it on Instagram. As much as I would love to bring this performance to other places, you've got to give your body a break. You've got to give your hair a break. You've got to give your mind a break too. And yeah, since you've last seen me, perhaps what I was thinking is, oh, I'm on to something. I'm going to keep on going. Now I'm recognizing there's some more value in stillness. And so I would say that's how my practice has evolved some too. And maybe another note is just that it was really a cool experience being here. And as an artist, I'm sure you experience this as well. People are trying to locate you, so they want to know what medium you're working in. I'm flying through all the mediums. And I feel like my time here made me feel more confident being multidisciplinary as an artist. So those are some updates from me.
That's wonderful. Well, congratulations on all those invites. Can you talk a little bit about Waves as a performance, and maybe you'll get even more invites and overwhelm your schedule? But from my perspective, it was I believe 13 minutes, your head was submerged in Atlantic saltwater from either Cooper's or Shinnecock Beach, whichever you prefer to call it. It surrounded your hair with shells, salt. Can you talk a little bit about the significance of 13, the use of hair in your work, and how you came up with this wave performance?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. Basically, this performance is an expansion of a short film that I've been working on for a while, and a still portrait that I shot and have been exhibiting at a few places across the country for the last couple of years. The portrait was what came first, and the idea behind it was like letting go of these feelings of displacement, of erasure, of kind of the loss that one feels being African American living in this country, too African to be American, too American to be African, feeling out of place. And so the original portrait that I shot and the short film that goes along with it was me releasing those feelings and letting it go. And so the performance has been a natural evolution of that work. The number 13 in numerology represents transformation and rebirth. And I utilized time as a medium to work with, to symbolize and grapple with those feelings of transformation and rebirth that I've been feeling in my own life. The reason that I use my hair is because our hair is a collection of dead cells, which is also found in the ocean. Ocean water is just dead cells as well. And so I wanted to connect myself with nature, to ground myself in the land and the earth that I come from, and to make a really wonderful, beautiful, poetic marriage between natural found elements. And my hair is a natural found element as well. Humans, we come from the land. And that's what the piece is about. It's been wonderful performing it a couple of times because I find that it takes on a life of its own. Everyone has their own interpretations of it, their own feedback from it. But I think what's been most rewarding about it is that I'm opening up a space for people to talk about feelings that they have not had before. Even if you're not African American, so many of us, particularly in this country, come from different places. And even people who do come from here, I imagine, feel a real sense of loss and displacement from their own land. And so it's been opening up a portal for people to talk about things that honestly we don't have the space to talk about. It's been quite healing and transformative for me, but it's a little bit heavy to hold on to.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for that description and where the performance comes from. Earlier in this conversation, you mentioned rest and how you're trying to slow down. I wanted to ask a little bit about, in your Waves performance, stillness as a protest, perhaps ritual becoming resistance. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you see performance as a tool, and not just for storytelling, but for healing and political transformation, as you mentioned. I think a lot of people are trying to transform the way that they see silence and rest, and how that can be either revolutionary itself or be the catalyst for revolutionary to gain that energy to do that type of work. So how can you describe like slowness and presence as activism in your art?
I come from a background of community organizing. So when I was a teenager, I helped to organize pretty big direct actions in New York City, particularly for the Black community and the LGBT community. A lot of it was about being loud. A lot of it was about turning out people. A lot of it was making very basic messages legible to the everyday person. But that was a very verbal kind of job. A lot of what I was doing was on the weekends, I would go to the park in my neighborhood and flyer and get people to turn out. Protest is extremely important, and it has a specific place in our culture and human history. And I'm really grateful and proud of the work that I've done. As an artist, I find that the feelings that we have when we can see ourselves, when we can see others, the kind of artwork that makes your palms sweat or like your heart tingle a little bit, that kind of stuff is more transformative, I think, than any protest could ever be for an individual. It's a change, a rupture that happens within you. You grow and you become a different person. And so I've really been having fun exploring in art that way. And with all of my work, what I want to try to do is make people feel, to shift who they are inside a little bit. Those kind of tiny silent revolutions that happen inside of us over and over again all day, I think is where the sweet spot is and has the real potential to change the world.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think rest is something that we try to do here at Ma's House as well. I think a lot of people, just inherently being artists, being in capitalism, like if you rest at all, it's a bad thing or shamed. But I think we have to definitely transform our thinking about that. I did definitely want to also touch upon the artist talk that you did as part of the Upon This Ground series with Bridgehampton Museum. You invited Jasmine Weber, and you had a really incredible conversation that's up on YouTube on the Bridgehampton Museum's website. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of the themes you mentioned during that conversation, which included home, place, body, memory, and also how you and Jasmine connected and you thought of inviting her.
Wait, I want to go back for a second. I realized that I didn't answer this specific question about rest,
Okay.
but I really appreciated what you said about under capitalism, we're all trying to hustle. And so it feels like rest can be a bad thing. I don't know what the public perception of me is. I can't manage or control that, but I am someone who's always on the go. I know that physically, I feel it. I'm not someone who prides myself on being busy though. I think the people that I look up to, the people that I admire and want to be like the most are the people who have downtime, who are relaxing, who take vacations, who are not going on a trip because it's art related, who are literally just living their lives. I find that admirable and cool and sexy and fun. That's what I want to be like, relaxed and comfortable, not hustling, not in the rat race. Let's pray that I get there. So I wanted to speak directly to rest. Speaking about the Bridgehampton Museum Artist Talk, it was a really special experience for me. So I immediately thought, when I'm thinking about doing an artist talk, I was thinking about my friend Jasmine Weber, who I wish she could come to the fundraiser this evening. I think she just left town yesterday. But my really great friend Jasmine Weber won the 2024 Andy Warhol Arts Writers Grant and doing a series of articles about Black artists here on the East End. And so when I knew I was coming out here, I thought there's really great synergy in our work. We've been friends for years. We've worked together on a number of different projects in the past, and we have a strong personal relationship as well. And so I thought any time that I go a new place, I want my work to take root in a serious and substantive way. It's cool to go places and talk about your work and leave, but I wanted to have a stronger connection here. And I thought that bringing Jasmine could make a stronger, more robust conversation, which it did. I'm really proud of that talk. Like you said, it is on YouTube for people to see now. I thought about having her come because there's synergy in our work in that way. I was mentioning this during the talk, always working to reintroduce myself to people. Who I was yesterday is not the same person that I am today. I see the work that Jasmine is doing, and I think it's so brilliant. She wrote an article earlier this year reviewing Amy Sherald's exhibition at the Whitney Museum. And I thought the way that she sees artwork and sees artists is just really special. And so that was what kind of motivated me to ask her to come in, and I'm really glad that she decided to join. And just to your question about some of the themes that were explored during that talk, I was trying to keep the performance a secret. I didn't want people to know exactly what it was. I wanted people to come in with fresh eyes. So we didn't talk much about the performance, but we talked a lot about my forthcoming exhibition called Returning Home. We talked about the short film that I've been editing and writing for recently. And yeah, I'm really proud of the work we did there.
Absolutely. So again, up on YouTube, make sure you watch it after this interview. I wanted to talk about Ma's House and your history at major institutions that also host residencies, including you've been to Brooklyn Museum, Watermill Center a few years ago, but Ma's House is a little bit more grassroots. It's artist-led, family-rooted, community-focused. I wonder if you might want to talk a little bit about where you are as an artist and the space that maybe Ma's House and other like POC or smaller art spaces have, and if they can offer things that maybe more endowed institutions can't offer, whether it's opportunities for freedom of expression, intimacy, vulnerability, and if you have any particular experiences where that came up.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. As someone who's got a chance to work with some major institutions across the country, I find that those partnerships are most fruitful when you have your shit together and you know what you want to do already. At my time in Ma's House, what I found most illuminating and most supportive is that there was space for me to just practice, to express, to figure things out, to work things through. It wasn't all about producing a product. And so I think that is one of the magical parts of Ma's House. It gives you that kind of space to create. And then you can come up with something even better than if you came in with a project fully baked. And yeah, I think they both have their benefits, of course, but for artists who are listening, for young people who are trying to figure out where their footing is, you guys have an amazing thing going here, a really amazing thing going. I'm really proud to be a part of it. And yeah, offers that space to create and to play that I think is so necessary when you want to create new work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I think in terms of your work as a multidisciplinary artist, you did a lot of performance when you were here. Oftentimes, whether it's a performance that's recorded in video or if it's live in person, you use your own body as site and medium. I wonder, how do you find recovery, both from the physical performance of it, but also you're dealing with themes of generational trauma, ancestral memory, like diasporic grief. How do you heal from these compounding things that you're working through and performing for the public, and you doing it so professionally? One thing I do want to mention is during your Watermill performance, I would say half the crowd was just like so focused. They were just like tunnel visioned on you, ready for your performance. You also had children running around screaming. How do you carry yourself in these atmospheres where it's unpredictable?
Addressing the first one, how do I do like the recovery thing? I'm still figuring that part out, if I'm being honest. I was at the salon yesterday and my hairstylist was like, Josh, what's going on? I see you've been using your hair a lot. What's the end game here? And so technically I'm thinking to do those things, right? Like how I can make sure that my hair is adequately supported. When you saw me do this performance, I did it on a tabletop. Recently I did it on the floor. So there's some of the kind of technical aspects of how do I physically take care of myself. Great. And then the mental aspects, just as a human being in general, like I'm in therapy once a week and I have group therapy as well. So I'm in therapy twice a week because of that. That helps. And so I'm grateful to have that support. A lot of people don't have insurance or can't afford to have therapy at least twice a week or whatever. So I'm really privileged and fortunate in that way. And that does help me. It helps me to find some stillness. So yeah, I have a team that's supporting me like physically. I've got a team that's supporting me mentally. Maybe in terms of like, how do I conduct myself in the moment? I view my performances or any of the work that I'm doing, anytime I'm in front of the camera, I'm functioning as a character, not as myself. And so the character depicted in many of my portraits in the short film that you're going to see, and also in that performance, really it's a character, it's a fully embodied, fully realized, completely liberated version of myself and what I hope humanity can be. That's who I'm functioning as. And so that character doesn't care about kids running around, doesn't really care what people are thinking. It's really just holding that space open. And so mentally, that's where I go. I want people to be able to enjoy art however they choose to. I can't control that. And so it was fun doing it at the Watermill Center and having kids run around. And obviously I'm aware of these things, but I'm not stressing about it. I'm just in the zone. I did this performance again in Manhattan recently, last month, and it was very different. I wish you could have seen it in person. It was a room full of people and everyone was dead silent the entire time. Yes, for 13 minutes. And I told them before, you guys, you can talk, you can come sit beside me. Like I'm totally chill, enjoy how you want to. And people were completely zoned in. Someone came up to me after and held my hand and said, thank you for doing that. I was crying. So people are gonna have different reactions. Like I said, I'm just glad to be holding the space, but that's the way that I think about it. Obviously, physically, I'm human, so I have to think about how often can you do this? Mentally, I'm human, how often can you hold this? But yeah, that's maybe a way that I deal with it, not just with performance, but with a lot of stuff that I do. I utilize a character in order to get the message across, and it makes it a little bit easier to carry.
That's so incredible. Since you're already confirmed for about 6 more upcoming performances, I wonder, are you going to transform them to respond to space, or are you going to get a different vessel for the hair, or do you prefer a specific type of table? Do you see them changing a little bit each time?
I think it's going to change each time. Obviously, we have to respond to space. So I did it once outdoors. I did it once indoors. When is this podcast coming out?
Hopefully as soon as possible.
I'm really excited to announce that on August 2nd, I'm going to be performing Waves for the first time internationally in Toronto, Canada. In a few weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm always looking to respond to the environment that I'm going to be in. That one's going to be an indoor performance. You know what? I've been having some visions of myself doing the meditation sitting upright. It feels awkward for a few reasons that I will tell you a little bit later. But I've been envisioning myself sitting down and doing the performance just with my eyes closed, sitting in meditation. Yeah, I'm working on playing with materials because there is a way that I can get like a portable wash bowl that just comes with the seat. And I could sit in a wash basin that way. So I'm enjoying playing with it, moving the pieces around. When we did the performance last time, we had to treat some mulch because you can't put salt on the open grass. So I did it with treated mulch the first time, and the second time I did it with the actual salt inside, and we just cleaned it up later. So I'm enjoying playing with different materials, having fun with them. Yeah, so things are going to change.
That's so exciting. I hope each one is documented if that's something you're open to. And so much of what Moz House tries to do, we try to do a lot of different things, but allowing for dialogue is so much part of what we're trying to do, presenting art, being a space to talk about art. You were also here at the same time as Indigenous artist Jake Kimball. You all had a lot of opportunities to share and learn about each other's work. I wonder, besides Jake and besides at Bridgehampton Museum and Watermill Center, or maybe within one of those, are there any conversations or reflections or moments of maybe revelation that came out or stuck with you, or maybe shifted your way of thinking during your 2 weeks here at Moz House?
I think the most beneficial thing of any residency is the people that you meet. Spending time with Jamie Harrell and Jake Kimball was extremely special. I learned a lot from them both. Me and Jake had a lot of time to talk and to become friends. Jake is not afraid to perform in open public space. They actually look at it, a medium to work with. And sometimes, if I'm being honest, I feel a little bit intimidated by working outdoors or in public space. And we all are allowed to chart our careers and our trajectories however we want to. If I want to be an institutional girly, that's my business. I could be in museums all day if I want to. But I think I maybe pigeonholed myself a little bit too much working in institutions. It's okay to be outdoors too. And work can take on a whole new meaning that way. And so spending time with them and having conversations with them and just seeing their process about how they go to develop a performance, it really lit something up in me and inspired me to do the same. So that was really special. And just in general, like you said, it's not just the community here at Ma's house. It was so many other people that I had the privilege to connect with while I was here for the 2 weeks. We were busy for that 2 weeks. And so I feel like so many of the conversations left me transformed. And I think the overwhelming feeling that I walked away with was, it's okay to expand. I walked away feeling.
Oh, definitely. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but today is July 9th, the day of our fundraiser, and you're here to come and celebrate Ma's house, and you're part of the history, so celebrating yourself as well. So thanks for coming back and sitting down. I think part of what we also ask as part of the reciprocity behind the residency is not only do you lead a public performance or artist talk as a visiting artist for our community, but I wonder if you could talk to our listeners or maybe even our broader audience a little bit about how you started out in organizing and activism and then became an artist. I think I asked you this question during your stay a couple weeks ago, but do you see yourself as maybe returning that opposite direction where you're creating art for political movements or for activism? I think that this is such a even more relevant question after 2020, after BLM, and I think a lot of people are trying to transform their art to have more of a message or something that can be pulled away in that regard.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's difficult to describe. My life is about art now. For the better part of 10 years, my life was all about community organizing. I was really involved in the philanthropic field as well. I would say I'm like a retired community organizer now. But obviously, I'm still organizing a community every day. That's what we're doing here today. But in terms of as a profession, that's not my job anymore. It's not what I do. I'm also only human. There's only so many hours in the day. And so to achieve at the level that I would like to in the art world, it just would be impossible to hold both. I had a conversation, maybe this was in 2020 or 2021, with one of my mentors and friends, Tourmaline, who was a mentor at the Silver Arts Projects when I was in residence there. And we've known each other for over 10 years as well. We met when I was a teenager and has always been a really influential guiding force in my life. I was saying to her when I first started my practice, I'm gonna make this artwork and it's gonna be so transformative and it's gonna help to change the world. And she said to me, Josh, that's great. But also if you just wanna make things because they're pretty, that's valid too. And that really helped me to reset my brain, because I think for so long as a Black person living in this country, it feels like a burden at all times to carry on this legacy of resistance and of change making that my ancestors did that allowed me to have the experiences that I do today. And that kind of viewing it as a burden as opposed to a privilege was weighing me down a little bit. And then when I realized, oh, you could just make things because they're pretty or because they make you happy or because they spark joy in you, that is important. And that does actually spark change. When I see artists who are just like, who are creating the art that they want to see in the world, it inspires me. Like I took the Long Island Railroad earlier and there was a Derek Adams piece like in the train station. I doubt he was making that piece thinking, oh, this piece is going to change the world. I think that's just the kind of art that he wanted to see in the world. And that's where I find myself trying to create from every day now. What do I want to see? What would make me happy? What would feel good? Like I said, a lot of my work has been about personal transformation. What's going to help heal and free me so I could live a better life for myself? That's been the space that I've been practicing at. And I would tell other artists maybe to try to do the same thing too. The way that we live our lives is activism. It can be in a negative way or a positive way, but it is. And we do have the ability to transform the world through creating our art, but also the way that we live our lives. The last thing I'll say on this is I always think about the Andre DeShields quote where he says, the top of one mountain is just the bottom of another one, so keep on climbing. When I think about my personal transformation from community organizing to making art, it's just moving from one mountain to the next and continuing my climb.
So wonderful. I think responding to your answer, I feel the same way about, do we want art to always be about trauma or make people sad, or do we want to see triumphant depictions of our community? I always go back and forth between those two things, but I think one thing I did come to a conclusion on is I'm hoping that some of my more sad or antagonistic works one day become irrelevant because, say, for example, one of them is about the land back movement, and hopefully we'll accomplish that one day and the art will no longer need to serve that purpose. So it's a little bit of optimism. It's a little bit of you trying to see those two lanes of creation coexist at the same time. It's totally possible. I do also wonder, one thing that's similar about both of our works is that it's so personal, it's so about ancestry, but you mentioned something new that I learned today, which is that you're creating a character, or you're performing as a character instead of yourself in your performances. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how did you come to this process or this way of seeing oneself, and how does that help you?
I utilize characters. I'll show you some stuff, and people could find it online. While I was in residence at the Brooklyn Museum with For Freedom's, the entire collective shot a news pilot. It was like an experimental news show, like artists' take on the news. We shot a 30-minute pilot, and I was the anchor for the show. For this show, I utilize a character. Sometimes when I'm hosting events, or I was on the host committee for a gala recently that required me to present an award and do stuff like that. So I play with characters all the time. But the specific character that you're asked, so I'm just letting you know that in general, part of my practice is utilizing characters. I think they're so wonderful because they allow us to, characters are like a vehicle to discuss things on a kind of like a 30,000 foot level. Like even what Stephen Colbert does with his interviews or what Z-Way does, it gives you an opportunity to answer the stupidest questions without it feeling awkward. And so that's the approach that I take to character work. I want to say the character doesn't have a name, but the character maybe developed in 2022 when I first started shooting for this project. I remember thinking like, what I wanted to feel in my own life and what I wanted to see in the world was just someone who was free of that trauma that you were speaking about, who was post that, who didn't feel the need to prove anything or be anything, who was fully realized, who knew exactly who they were, where they're from, where they belong, and embodied that in a beautiful sense. I'm playing the character in the portraits that you see. I'm playing this character in the short film that you'll see. And I play the character now, utilize it for this performance. And I really enjoy it. I try not to go into character too much in my everyday life, obviously, but I find that the character stays with me all the time. And it brings me a real sense of peace. Because what you're saying, we have optimism for the future. We have goals and aspirations for our lives, for our histories, for our cultures, for our ancestors, etc. And the character gives me an opportunity to play with that.
Definitely. Maybe speaking of character, you were speaking about character with your Waves performance. One of the greatest assets of the proximity of Moss House is just its proximity to the beach. And I remember you were asking about water as soon as you got here for your performance. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about like how does water become an important medium in your work, and how do you think of it in terms of practicality? Just because we traditionally have a lot of painters, we have a lot of photographers, we have a lot of performance artists, but when you incorporate water, it becomes a whole. So how did you end up maybe first utilizing water, and do you have any future projects using it?
Yes, I'm always working with water. I'm a person who likes water in general. I like to swim. I think it's beautiful. I like to look at it. I like the aesthetic value of it. I like the creative value of it. I like the pleasure value of it. I enjoy working with water. Even sometimes if you can't see it, I'm working with it. For example, for this performance that I did in the short film, I had soaked 13 pounds of beads in water before putting them in my hair, just to be in conversation with the earth and the water and the elements around me. And so if you see it in a still portrait or if you see it in a film, you're not going to know that water's a part of that practice, but it is. I find that it's like water found in nature is very grounding for me. And with all of my work, even with portraiture, what I'm trying to do is be in a deeper conversation than just what we can see visually. And we are always in conversation with water, no matter where we are, no matter how far we go or what we're doing, we're always in conversation with water. It influences so much of my work, so I want to make it a part of it. And then maybe just from a practical element, it is difficult sometimes because you don't always have access to the kind of water that you would want. One of the things we talked about at the salon yesterday was like, salt water is okay for my hair. Sitting in still fresh water is so small things like that. But I live in the middle of Brooklyn. I can't just go to the beach anytime I want to and get salt water. And same thing with salt too. Like I was looking for a specific kind of salt that will not harm the ground if it happens to make its way or if a trash bag rips or whatever. I want to be conscious about how I'm treating the environment. I don't want my performance to add to the fucking problems that we have going on. I want to help. I want to help with my work. And I was running around to all these different Home Depots trying to find the proper salt to utilize and then lugging it around. So there are some maybe logistical elements to working with things like salt or salt water, etc., that make them challenges. But I think even if it didn't have any symbolic significance, I just think it's cool. So I like to work with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always amazed when artists come, especially in the summer, and not even go to the beach like once. So it's so great that you incorporate it so well. I do want to ask, being a Moss House resident alumni, what's next for you in your practice or within your community work? And for our listeners who are maybe not fans yet, what's the best way they can follow your work, support you, or stay?
Anyone is welcome to come with me on my journey. I'm on social media every single day of the week. You can follow me at Joshua Obawole on Instagram and on TikTok. I try to share as much as I can of my life. I was actually on TikTok live with some friends. I was in Fire Island last weekend, I want to say, or 2 weekends ago. One of my friends was like, Josh, please post more often. We want to see more of what you're doing because, and I do recognize this, I live a relatively privileged life compared to the average American cannot afford a $400 emergency. You know what I mean? I'm jetting around the world all the time. I know that I'm really lucky to experience these things, and I try to share as much as I can. I'm always looking to get better at it. You know this, I'm always chasing people down for photos and videos. I try to share as much as I can because I do know that my life is really charmed. And I do know that, because even for me growing up, I didn't really see any other young Black queer people just out here doing it like that. And so I try to provide a good experience on my social media. Come and follow me if you want to. In real life, like I just mentioned, I'm headed up to Canada soon. I'm leaving in a couple weeks. I'm gonna be out in Lake Ontario as a part of the Black August Arts Residency. I'm very excited. I have not been to Canada in 10 years. I went for the first time when I was 19. I went to go speak at McGill University, and that was in Montreal. This will be my first time visiting Toronto. I'm really looking forward to being surrounded by some really cool Black artists there, so many people that I admire and respect. I'm gonna be performing Waves at the end of that residency in the beginning of August, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm taking a little bit of time off from work to just give myself some space to relax. It's also summer. And like I was telling you earlier, I think it's cool when people can just take time off and rest. I have everything that I need. I don't need to run around working. It's summertime. I'm going to give myself some time off. And so after my residency in Toronto's over, I'm going to do some traveling, just enjoy myself, go to the beach, hang out with friends, be a messy 20-something-year-old traveling the world. I'll do that for the month of August. And then when I come back, I'm really excited about this. I was just selected as the 5th Bayard Rustin resident in Gramercy Park in Manhattan. This comes with an apartment, a chef, a studio in the city for 12 months, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been awarded this residency to bring back my award-winning mentorship program. Back in 2021, when I was making this transition and moving on from the community organizing and activism stuff and moving full-time into the arts, I recognize that I'm extremely lucky and privileged to have the connections, the resources, and the access that I do in my life. I think that I am a success story of young people from Brooklyn because of the opportunities that I've had. I piloted a mentorship program over the summer of 2021 with 4 Black, queer, and trans people from my hometown in Brooklyn. For 6 weeks, I introduced them to guest mentors, to people in the publishing industry, the fashion industry, the art world. I went out to tons of dinners, did some pleasure activities as well. I won a really cool award for it from the Brooklyn Arts Council, which was nice. And I'm grateful that they see and support my work. I thought I was done with it, to be honest. I'm a busy kid now, but the residency offered me an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And so what I'm going to be doing when I come back in September is building the mentorship program to scale. So I did a pilot first, and I'm not really gonna have time every summer to do a mentorship program, but I wanna build out the curriculum, the spaces, build the institutional collaborations and support systems, so that way this pilot program that I developed can be replicated in public schools, museum programs, and summer camps, etc. I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing. It makes me feel really good and fulfilled. You asked what I'm doing. You can follow me there on social media. You can be a part of my programs or stuff like that. Residency feels very special this year-long one to me because it was founded in partnership with Bayard Rustin's partner. For people who are listening, if you don't know who Bayard Rustin is, he's one of the most important activists in American history. He helped to plan the March on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King. He also was the originator of the Freedom Rides across the country in the 1950s, which helped to bring in segregation. A really well-traveled activist, learned and studied under nonviolent civil rights protests in India, was there for the fall of the British government in Ghana. And so much of his work is informed by his international perspective as an activist, and it was extremely inspiring to me as a kid. And so to be a resident in his namesake and creating this work feels extremely fulfilling, and I'm really proud of it. So those are some of the things that I'm doing and how people can come be a part of it.
Thank you again, Joshua, for being on our podcast.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.